talk, I'd like to introduce Kate. She's one of our design strategists here at Portable, and she's got an incredible background in human-centred design and design thinking methodology. She's kicking off our latest area of research, which is rethinking modern education through a design lens. This talk is less about us telling you about the research and actually just striking up the conversation and actually getting a bit of dialogue around this topic going. So she also moonlights as an occasional sessional lecturer. So she's curious about to find out what the experience could be of school for students, lecturers, parents, carers and policymakers. So I'd like to give a warm welcome to Kate onto the stage for Unlearning School.
All right, hello everyone. I'm going to start with a question. I'm going to throw it to you guys. What do you think is the most dangerous job in the world?
Policeman.
Oh, policeman? Oh, Bonnie? Oh.
Policewoman.
Oh.
Prime Minister?
Oh, Sarah.
Is it a garbage truck driver?
No. Well, according to Time magazine, the most dangerous jobs in the world are lumberjack, deep sea fishermen and pilots. So when I was studying industrial design at uni, I read a book called Design for the Real World by a design theorist called Victor Papanek. In it, he argues that the most dangerous job in the world is in fact the designer. Left to their own devices without users and experts, designers design cars that kill people and design rubbish that fills landfill. So designers can ruin the world. It's a big start. So when I'm talking about danger, I'm actually talking about responsibility. So designers put a lot of stuff in the world that impacts lots of people. However, I don't think design is alone in this predicament. Another discipline facing the same danger about responsibility and impact, I believe, is the discipline of education. There are many parallels between design and education in regards to impact and responsibility, and nothing apart from family has a greater influence on the people of the future and today than the education system. So, hello, my name's Kate. I'm a trained industrial designer, but I'm also a service designer, a co-designer, a facilitator, a sessional lecturer, so you name it, design buzzword. There's a lot floating around today. I work in an ever-changing discipline that is design, and it's always changing, so it makes it really hard to define sometimes. But tonight I'm going to use human-centred design and design thinking as our approach, and service design as our discipline term. I'll go into what I mean by that in a second. But first, welcome to Portable. I'm going to introduce you to Portable's newest research exploration, which is around education. It's called Unlearning School. It's about rethinking modern education from prep to year 12 using a human-centred design. We're interested in seeing how we can use service design tools in education and seeing what sort of impact we can have. Some of the other big pillars we've been exploring here at Portable are infrastructure, death and ageing, and justice, access to justice. So we're looking into school with our design lens to see what we can learn, basically. So like most of the challenges we face at Portable in design, we're seeing the education system as a large, complex system of users, services, products, and people. It might look something like this as a very quick look. Noting that all things are connected in all these systems that we work with in design, for this project we're focusing on the school experience and how we can give students and teachers a say in how they experience education. We can start to begin unpack these challenges with Design Thinking Toolkit. So, school. Well, if we start thinking about school and education, what are the things we would start asking if we're talking about it like a design challenge? So school today is more than just an institution to get a job. It's a wonderful time for many, but also can be quite a difficult time for some. It influences us in many ways, and there's lasting effects on our adult life sometimes for school. According to the Kids survey, nearly 50% of mental health problems begin before the age of 14. And according to Beyond Blue, 6.3% of Australians between 16 and 24 experience anxiety or depression. And like many countries, Australia has an industrial model of school that reflects a 20th century aspiring model to deliver mass education. Research poses that Australia's education performance in certain areas is on the low, And we switch on the TV and we see lots of media about NAPLAN, teaching standards, and very rightly so, this is very important stuff. However, we're thinking about having a different conversation. That is really important, but we're really curious at Portable to try and understand this system, and there's a different way of tackling it from a design lens. Because the world has changed, but has the education changed with it? And how can design help? So another buzzword we're going to use tonight, design research. It's a little bit different to academic research and market research. So in market research, we speak to lots of people and we get some truths. But when we do design research, it's all about emotions, storytelling, and getting real-world experiences to gather insights. So we speak to less people, but we get more truths and we understand the what and more about the why. So before I jump into a little bit more about this project that we're running, I think I'll tell you a little bit about my school experience. So I grew up in Northcote with my mum, dad and my 3 brothers, and we all attended the local primary school. I was actually sent to school when I was 4 because my mother couldn't stand me at home anymore. And it was exactly what I needed. Mum and Dad tell me that, school set me straight. All I needed was the structure and what was expected of me, and it really worked well for me. So much so that I remember when I didn't complete some piano homework, I remember having my first meltdown to my piano teacher. So I thrived in the structure. So then I went to high school, and I attended the local public school, Northcote High, back then the rough school. And I was a bit of a nerd, so I witnessed just because I was a bit of a nerd, I still witnessed my fair share of disruption in the classroom. So I saw my peers who I got on really well. When I was writing my notes, they were throwing tables out of the classroom. So I remember really thinking when school was working for me, and I think back to those students and I go, it just wasn't for them. And I'm really grateful that it was for me. I fit the system. So then I finished high school, and like most year 12s, I was like, I don't know what to do. But I could draw, and I got into industrial design. So I got into industrial design, and all my friends are like, so you design factories? And I'm like, no. I actually spent the first couple of years drawing keep cups, because we had to just draw a lot back in industrial design, and we all thought, yep, we'll all be at IKEA designing furniture when we finish our course. So going through industrial design, this was the first time I was going through my education. I wasn't connecting to what I was learning, so we were doing products and stuff like that, and I was like, I don't know if I can get around this Alessi juicer or designing chairs or anything like that. We had another assignment which was designing a chair, and it was a chair meant to be for 2 people, and my peers designed these gorgeous chairs, different colours, but my group was so disconnected with learning about product design that we actually designed this silly mat, which was we couldn't even get any measurements right to hold a person on a chair, so it just wasn't for us. So I was feeling a little bit jaded and disillusioned, so I started listening up in design studies class. And that's where I really started to learn about the responsibility and the impact of the designer. These are some of the things I remember. So everything is designed, even a paperclip, thinking has gone into that. We used to speak about that someone designed and tested a gun. People designed torture cells, and that was creative problem solving going into how people were tortured. The products we design alter and change our human behaviour, and the things that usually end up in museums that tell the history of time are the products in that. So that really got me a little bit more motivated in my learning, and then we started learning about service design, which was the non-object class. And this was about that products don't live by themselves, so they live within systems. So that chair needs a room, needs a table, needs people in it. I remember learning about the iPod. So the iPod doesn't live alone. It has a website, it has sign up, it has music. And I think we can think about the education system in the same way. So the education system being full of stakeholders, users, services and technology, everything in that has been designed and has the ability to be redesigned too. So my service design lecturer would be like, okay, you've got to stop thinking about this chair. Maybe you should just start thinking about sitting. And I was like, oh, maybe I was right about that silly mat the whole time. So like most students, I finished my course and I was like, oh, am I even going to get a job? Like, and I was a little bit worried about that. But then fortunately, this service design was a thing. It just happened to be what I was really, really interested in and really hung on to. So there was like this huge appetite for service design, but it's like really messy work, and like government wants it, NGOs wants it, but it's like, does anyone know what it is? Like, so it is messy work, but there is structure to it. So has anyone seen this before? So the design squiggle, it's basically one way of representing how we solve problems in design. So we start off with a problem and there's chaos and complexity, and eventually we'll get to a solution. So we have lots of tools and things that go on in that middle bit, and we'll have a solution at the end. A more of a processed way to look at it is the double diamond, which I'm sure most of you have seen as well. This is all about discovering, so starting off with what you don't know and then doing a lot of research, talking to lots of people, holding workshops, synthesising and understanding patterns within that, getting to a pointy how might we question, which I'm sure people may have heard it in the room, which then opens up opportunities to then start drawing and making and designing new things there. So it's about iteration, it's about making, and we also have our design mindsets as well. So having empathy for the people that are using the services, being curious, being optimistic, sitting with ambiguity, making, failure, optimism. I was recently in a workshop and someone was like, oh, this all sounds a little bit culty, don't you think? And I was like, yeah. But yeah, this is the design thinking mindset that we use. So service design is working with complexity. There's a growing amount of research around service design as well. So muddling your way through different problems in different sectors has been referred to a lot. So we use service design heavily in the financial sector, in healthcare, and yeah, there's growing academic research about it. But I think, and you know, we spend a lot of time talking to users about walking into a bank or navigating an app, and I think there's a real big opportunity for using this in schools and understanding the school experience. So everyone deserves a good experience, and so should all being educated and educating in the education system. So if the experience of walking into a bank has been designed, what about your school? And as I said before, we spend many hours there. So I'm really interested and curious about exploring this. But there's a few things already happening. In Victoria, around the world, these conversation and projects are popping up around education and using design methods as well too. So, IDEO, does everyone know, or who knows IDEO in the room? Yeah. So IDEO did a project which was a school retool program, which was basically doing small hacks and interventions at school. So they went into a school and they worked with the school to understand the challenges, and they did very small prototypes within that school to test, to then lead into big change or impact. So one of their prototypes was a student challenge, where the principal shadowed a student for a day and then got to empathise and gather a different perspective from them too. In Australia, we have Teach the Teacher, which is it's a sort of professional development program for teachers, but they invite students in to have a facilitated conversation around providing feedback. Project Rocket, which is a pretty big one in Victoria, which is getting young people in to define an online platform that encourages students to self-reflect and equip them with skills for them to face bullying. And Save the Children is a hands-on learning program that supports different ways of learning. So they put students sometimes for 2 days to learn differently in a cafe as well. So, yeah. There's also, need to acknowledge that I know personally many teachers in my life, and there's all these creative design, projects happening, but there's probably, and I know there is, wonderful things happening in the classrooms every single day. So, yeah, just acknowledging that is happening in Victoria every day as well. So, we've got a few learnings here at Portable in the education space. So one of the first projects I worked on when I came to Portable, we did a define phase, so understanding a problem phase, to define a student-centred hub that allows parents, carers and teachers to collaborate, engage and communicate across the whole student's journey. So this was a very big aim for a project, but it was the start of a very long roadmap for the Department of Education in New South Wales. The user needs were vast, so our high-level insights were that parents need to be informed, students be prepared and teachers be freed up to teach. And we set out to uncover what each user group needed and what they would want from some sort of digital hub. So this being an early project, still in Define, we tested some of our ideas using storyboards. So we got some students from prep to year 12 to come in and talk about how they might experience this platform, but we got them to test the interactions around it. So we didn't get stuck into the nitty-gritty of the digital interface. We were testing different ways of the other things that happen around that. So we were testing things like better connecting with the school community, a 360 feedback loop with the teacher and the student, what might a live reporting functionality look like that we tested with some teachers, and what's online student collaboration as well. We took one of the concepts to a higher fidelity, and again we worked with students to understand what that might be. So we created a dashboard that had some timetabling, upcoming assessments to ease anxiety around planning your week at school, and different events as well. So this was a little dip into working with young people and working with them to define our solution. But we learned a lot from working using our typical design methods with young people as well. So it was a really interesting project. But really, again, we're dipping our toes in. There's still a lot to learn in this space as well. So what's possible? So I'm going to end with a few provocations and then then that's the end of the talk. Sorry. So my first provocation is, what if we embedded designers into a school? So I'm really interested in pushing the boundaries of our design research methods. So what if we got a design team to stay in a school for 2 weeks? What are the things that we would learn? If we take in that sort of small hacks intervention idea that we learnt from IDEO, what can we learn very small scale to quickly test, to quickly prototype, and then lead to bigger things potentially? So what can we learn? What if we strapped a GoPro to every student? Now, I don't mean this quite literally, but we use a method in design called cultural probes, where you hand a research pack to your participant that might have a camera, that might have a notepad, and we actually get them to document their day from their perspective to gather insights. So what would it mean if we gave a bunch of students this to document their week or their term? How might we think about their journey through school holistically, and how might we gather those insights from them doing it from their perspective? And what if we did the same to teachers? What if we got teachers to put a GoPro on their heads? What can we learn? What can we learn from teachers and going through the different emotions throughout the term? What about teachers in report time? What would we learn as well about what they're going through, and how can that add to the holistic picture of their experience too? What if we just spoke to some students? What if we got a bunch of year 6s in a room and we got a bunch of year 10s in a room? And this is just about giving students voice and chatting to them about how they might shape their education too. What if we consider all users edge cases? So in design, we design for extreme users. So that's investigating the different users of people that from different ends of the spectrum of, not the spectrum, but different ends of our use sort of, for whoever's using for the service, and those by designing those unique, for those with unique needs outside of the mainstream, that sort of usually makes the whole experience for all users better. So what could we learn from that? And what if we just unpicked school norms? So what assumptions are we making around school as well? And what could we unpick? In design, we test assumptions, we ask tricky questions. So what would we start asking if we were going to unpick school norms? And what would be challenging about that? What the questions might be, why do we start at 9 and end at 3? Or can we have a longer lunch? I don't know. What can we learn? So have a think, and I'm going to invite you to stay and stick around and join the conversation. What are the questions that you think we should be asking to join us on our research project too? So let's ask some hard questions, let's learn something new, and if it all fails, you can just blame the designers, or you can blame me personally. So if we accept that designers and educators working in solitude are dangerous, then let's work together. So together we can fail fast and we can learn lots. So I invite the experts in the room to join me and to make me, the designer, a little bit less dangerous and take part in this conversation. So we also note that there's so much research been done in this area. So now it's time to share with us what you think is what's missing. So I welcome you to throw yourself into the danger room tonight. Danger zone, I mean. And please stick around and have a chat and begin the conversation with us. In our glass house over there, please grab a whiteboard marker or a post-it note and note down on our wall a challenge, a new idea or a highlight about your school experience to begin the conversation. So we have the design skills and you have the expert knowledge. So let's be ambitious in the way that we may deliver education to our young people. And email me. Thank you.